Simon Williams is a microbiologist at Columbia University and the University of Western Australia. He and his colleagues trapped more than 400 mice in apartment building basements in Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, and the Bronx. They took swabs of the mice's rear ends, gathered feces from the traps, and subjected both to a battery of genetic tests. The mice harbored an array of disease-causing bacteria, like Shigella, Clostridium difficile, Salmonella. They also carried a suite of antibiotic resistance genes, and viruses associated with insects, dogs, chickens, and pigs. Mice from a Chelsea apartment building had the most pig virus, perhaps, the scientists say, because they live near the meatpacking district, which used to have pork processing facilities before fashionable nightclubs took over. However simple or complex the chain of events in any given situation, when looked into it usually reveals a train of causal relationships. They are seen to be linked in some way. The methods of analysis aim to establish these relationships and provide a solid background for useful generalizations based on what at first appear to be separate events. The first step in this process is to collect facts and then see if any particular patterns emerge. If they do, it then becomes possible to form theories related to the facts, and this type of empirical theory forms a useful basis for analysis and prediction. However, on its own this theory is not enough. The essential second step is to test it by collecting more facts and by checking predictions against events. These new facts may mean you have to modify the theory, bearing in mind that new facts can only either disprove or support a theory. They cannot prove it to be right. What was interesting and revealing about younger and middle-aged views on old age was how relative these were to the individual's own age. Those in their teens regarded 40 as old, whereas those in their 40s thought 70 or 80 was old. For many, health was seen as a determining factor in deciding who is old, and many young participants commented on how fit and active their grandparents are, while others thought ill health and dependence were an inevitable part of aging. The majority of participants, however, regarded old age as something negative, and many expressed fear of growing old. Jack Nicholson, playing the crazed caretaker in The Shining, makes me reach for a blanket. Now a study finds that people we find, well, creepy can actually make us feel colder. The research will be published in the journal Psychological Science. Researchers interviewed 40 college undergraduates. During each interaction, the experimenter was either chummy with the student or very stiff and professional. The investigator also alternated between mimicking students' posture, a signal of rapport, and not doing anything at all. Participants then completed a questionnaire designed to find out how hot or cold they felt. The results showed that the subjects actually felt colder when the investigator acted inappropriately or sent mixed signals. The researchers conjecture that because the brain tries to interpret social cues and purely physical ones simultaneously, people unconsciously associate icy stares and chilly interactions with actual physical coldness. So the next time you have to visit your doctor with the creepy receptionist, bring a sweater. Professor Smith, thanks for making the time to come and see me. As you know, there are a couple of things I think we need to discuss about your progress in the course. Angelina, yes, I know, I'm glad you could make the time. Professor Smith, not a problem. It's really part of my job to make sure everyone enrolled in the course is getting as much out of it as they can. If we just look at this spreadsheet, which outlines your assessment results so far, you can see that while your grades were initially fine, certainly in the average for the year group as a whole, towards the end of semester 1 they've started to drop off a bit. Angelina, yeah. Yes, I see. I must admit that I had to take a fortnight off just after mid-semester break, and I really felt that the work I missed in those 2 lab sessions have made it really hard for me to understand some of the underlying material required for the rest of the course. Professor Smith, well, thanks for being so honest, Angelina. I think we're going to have to think about putting some strategies place, so that by the end of year assessments you're going to have a fair chance of passing. Angelina, well, yeah, thanks Professor Smith, I couldn't agree more, but I must admit I'm at the point where I don't really know where to start to get on top of this. Almost everyone has heard of the London Stock Exchange, but, relatively, few know anything about the London Metal and Commodity Exchanges, yet these markets have a greater influence on world economies because they set global prices for some of the essential raw materials for industry and food manufacture. The LME provides three basic services to the world's non-ferrous metal trade. First, it is a market where large or small quantities of metal of a guaranteed minimum standard can be bought and sold on specific trading days. Second, it acts as a barometer of world metal prices. And third, it is a hedging medium, that is, it can help traders get some protection from price fluctuations that occur for economic, political, or financial reasons. The spinal cord, the link between the brain and the body, is a band of nervous tissue about the thickness of your little finger that runs through the backbone. Nerve cells called motor neurons convey electric impulses that travel from the brain to the spinal cord, branching off at the appropriate point and passing to the various parts of the body. Similarly, sensory neurons transmit messages from organs and tissues via the spinal cord to the brain. But the spinal cord also functions without the brain having to intervene. It alone controls those actions called spinal reflexes that need to be carried out very fast in response to danger. Privacy and the right to privacy are increasingly becoming hot topics in the media, which is a touch ironic, given that it is often the media that is responsible for invasion of privacy. This is not just about those whose careers put them in the public eye, but ordinary people who through no fault of their own have come to public notice because of some event that has attracted the attention of the media. It might be that a member of their family has been imprisoned for some crime, rightfully or wrongfully, or perhaps they are the victims of some natural disaster. Some people argue that those who have chosen to be in the public sphere, and have teams of public relations people to make sure they get as much public attention as possible, actors, rock stars, politicians and the like, have given up their right to privacy and get everything they deserve. As a consumer, you're probably consuming imports. If we have a trade war and we start slapping tariffs on all of those imports, the bill is going to be higher. If the world relies so much on trade, what is a trade war and why do countries get caught up in them in the first place? That's one of the things that makes frogs are amphibians different from other vertebrates, is that they have special glands that produce defensive compounds, mostly toxins. If something tries to bite them, they get the toxin in their mouth, and then what happens to the predator is that their muscles stop working, so they can't bite, and then they stop breathing. So some of them are really dangerous actually. And most of the ones that are dangerous are out in the daytime, so they're flaunting their colors. They have very bright either reds or blues for oranges. And they're basically showing off their poisonousness in a sense. Is that a word?